Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and I have with me today a couple of guests. I have Alec from the What's Choppin' podcast here with Big Banter Sports. He covers everything Rutgers for us. And then I have Spartan Dog, who I think you know is from the Bacon Wire podcast, covering everything Michigan State. Alec, how we doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
For sure. How you doing, Spartan Dog?
I'm doing great, JR. Thanks for inviting me on.
For sure.
Excited to chop it up.
All right, let's do it. So, as you know, we are from the Big Banter Sports Network. We are the Big Ten Huddle. And like I said, Alec is from What's Choppin' with Big Ten Banter Sports, or Big Banter Sports. And Spartan Dog is from Bacon Wire with them as well. Hey, if you like the Big Ten Huddle, be sure to like and subscribe. We have episodes every Monday morning, Wednesday morning, and Thursday morning covering all the big news here around the Big Ten with guests like this from different Big Ten teams. So you can hear all about the different opinions and what's going on there. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Rumble. Alec, you want to tell us a little bit about What's Choppin' and where people can find you at?
Yeah, so What's Choppin' Podcast, you can find it on social media at What's Choppin' Pod, and then on all social media, or on all, sorry about that, on all podcasting platforms, it's the What's Choppin' Podcast, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple, even Amazon Prime, if that's your thing. Talk about all things Rutgers football. I have an episode coming out soon, since the season opener is 7 days away. So yeah, be sure to be on the lookout for that. We'll be talking with the Wild Chat, also part of the Big Banter Sports Network, covering Northwestern.
Can't wait. Should be a good time. Spartan Dog, you want to tell us where to find Bacon Wire?
Yeah, you can find Bacon Wire on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. You'll never make me call it X. On at Bacon Wire, we cover everything MSU football and basketball. Now that we're in season, we upload every Monday. Our season preview pod is live now with a great guest, Asa of Touchlines and Touchdowns. I had a great time discussing this, kind of looking at things with the 50,000-foot view here, and, give it a listen before kickoff. We're here 5 days away now for MSU kicking off Friday night.
Can't wait. It's going to be a great time. I love that Big Ten is kicking off a little early. You got Thursday action, Friday action, Saturday action. Going to be a great time watching the whole time leading up into the weekend. Well, here today at the Big Ten Huddle, we have a list of things to go through, news items from the weekend. And since we put out our last show on Thursday, we also have something from Thursday. We have the Michigan head coaching plan to get into. We have Mel Tucker's NIL quote that he talked about, and we have injury reports coming from the Big Ten this season. Super excited for that. Super excited to talk about that and all that's going on. So let's just get into it. All right. The Michigan head coaching plans, with Jim Harbaugh being suspended, self-imposed suspension. We have Jesse Minter covering game 1 against East Carolina. We have Jay Harbaugh and Mike Hart splitting the duties for game 2 against UNLV. Jay Harbaugh will be in the first half. Mike Hart will be in the second half. And then game 3, we have the Bowling Green game, where offensive coordinator and offensive line coach Sherrod Moore will be head coaching the team for that game. Also, quick note that we found out is that Sherrod Moore is suspended for the first game of the season as well. Fellas, let me know, what are we thinking with this whole plan that Jim Harbaugh has concocted into his mind and brought out? I'll let you go first, Spartan Dog. You like this? You dislike this? What do you think?
I personally think the whole thing is silly for this reason. If Harbaugh plans on staying past this year, this little self-imposed punishment is not gonna like turn away the NCAA from hammering him harder. I mean, he tried to negotiate a harsher 4-game suspension where he would be away from the program entirely for the first month. And the NCAA outright rejected that because they wanted to hit him harder. So doing this little self-imposed suspension where you can coach him Monday through Friday, but come Saturday, you have an assistant wear the headset and just kind of go through the motions, I think is just a little silly. I don't know if it's like making fun of the NCAA. I don't know if they're trying to like appease the NCAA. To me, I just don't get it. They'll be fine. it is what it is, but it's all a little silly to me. It's just kind of like, again, I've said this before. Michigan, both the program, the school, and the fans have this unique ability to make anything that happens to them completely unbearable to talk about because they're so goddamn annoying.
Appreciate the passion there, Spartan Dog. Alec, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do think it's at least a little bit silly, especially having the 3 different interim head coaches. I mean, it's cool, well, some of the guys are younger guys who haven't had their shot as a head coach. The other one is Jim's father, who is not on the younger side. But I mean, yeah, I would agree. I do think it's a way to like appease the NCAA, or at least in their eyes, appease them, because I mean, who knows what the NCAA, what their thought process is when they do literally anything. But I mean, I guess it's a cool gesture to see, like, give 3 guys their own shot. Now I agree. Do I think it's really going to do much? No, because of that schedule and the fact that, Harbaugh is going to be with the team Monday through Friday. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's the fact that they're naming 3 different interim head coaches instead of just one, I think is kind of cool. But everything else about it, yeah, I agree with Spartan Dog. It feels kind of silly.
Right, and I forgot to mention there, I'm glad you brought it up there, Alec, that Jim's father, Jack Harbaugh, will be an associate head coach for all of them, along with Ben Herbert as well. And yes, so don't get them mixed up. Jay Harbaugh is Jim's son, who will be doing the first half. He's also the special teams coordinator at Michigan. For me, it's just like super confusing to talk about. Like we got, okay, so who's the coach this time? Who is it this time? And for me, I know this is kind of a hot take because I don't think anybody else has brought it up that I've heard talk about it. For me, it's like, it almost feels like Jim Harbaugh is saying, hey guys, let's get the band back together for one more season. This is our chance to win a national championship. We may never have this chance again. Obviously Michigan is a good program. They may have this chance again, but for Jim and his guys, we may never have this chance again. Let's all come back. If they suspend me, everybody will get a game. We can have multiple head coaches, kind of like this whole up, I guess, how am I trying to say it? Motivational tactic for the team and trying to bring the guys in and maybe get them better coaching jobs because now they have experience. I don't know. I wouldn't call a UNLV first half experience or a second half or a game against Bowling Green experience. But, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? You guys think that these guys are being kind of groomed to go off to their own head coaching jobs? What do you think, Alec?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the make the best of a quote unquote bad situation. You got a bunch, I believe, they're all pretty young guys from what I can tell, and they've all, spent their time in assistant roles at both Michigan and at lower level programs as well. So I guess it's kind of just like a nod to, hey, you've worked hard enough. Let's see what you can do with this opportunity that we're giving you. At least that's what I see it as.
Right. What about you, Spartan Dog?
So I will say, don't sleep on UNLV because UNLV has this receiver on their roster by the name of Ricky White. And if you guys remember that 2020 MSU Michigan game, a young Ricky White announced himself to the world, absolutely scorching the Michigan secondary en route to victory. So, it just be on the lookout. That's all I'm going to say. Whether they win or lose, I don't know, but just look out for Ricky White out there on UNLV. To me, this reads as one way or the other. This feels kind of like a last dance situation. I'm not gonna be one of those guys who hopes Harbaugh leaves. I just think giving these assistants basically an audition, it kind of feels very Michael Scott, that episode where he takes them all to the beach and makes them do Survivor stuff to decide who he's going to endorse as the next regional manager. That's what it feels like to me.
I really like the visual of Jesse Minter being, Stanley or Dwight or somebody like that and leading his team. I really need to get those comparisons in my head. Unfortunately, we don't have time to talk through the comparisons, but maybe next time you're with us, Spartan Dog, we can get those comparisons together. All right, now we will talk about the other school in Michigan down the road in East Lansing. Well, down the road, up the road, I don't know, somewhere on the road to East Lansing with Mel Tucker in his NIL quote that he brought up the other day. Now, if you have not heard this this quote. I will go ahead and read part of it. This was mostly what was shared on social media and in an article that I read, because of course the full article with the interview was behind a paywall, so I didn't get the chance to read all of it. But here's the quote that is circulating the most. It is from Mel Tucker. I don't know what the number is. I just know it boggles my mind how there can be an expectation to compete at the highest level, but not be at the highest level in any other area. I don't know how this happens. Of course, he's talking about NIL, talking about expectations for Michigan State to essentially be where they were a couple of years ago at 11-2. Spartan Dog, we'll let you start with this as the resident Michigan State expert. These comments and everything, is this Mel Tucker complaining? Is he just being real? What do you think about it?
So I'm of a few different minds on this one, right? On its face, he is correct. You cannot, any program cannot expect to compete at a national level if they are not nationally excellent in areas such as recruiting, such as NIL contributions, facilities, things like that, right? So on its face, he is correct. Here's my issue with the quote, though, okay? Michigan State has made massive investments in facilities, in staffing, in contracts since Mel Tucker has gotten there, right? And this was money that Mark D'Antonio could have had, just chose not to, which is part of the reason why, the program is the way it is right now, is just because D'Antonio didn't modernize quick enough. Now, Michigan State has a great NIL program for how NIL is intended to be used, right? Once kids are on campus, they're able to put themselves into a marketplace to be able to gain endorsement deals. Michigan State is nationally recognized for having an NIL program for being used as it was intended. The problem is, in practice, NIL is just legalized bag dropping, right? And the programs that are succeeding in the NIL era are the programs that were succeeding pre-NIL because they had a sophisticated bag dropping. And the billionaires that Mel Tucker is close with, Matt Ishbia, Steve St. Andre, Dan Gilbert, right? These guys do and should focus on the big picture stuff: facilities, salaries, stadium improvements, right? NIL networks are built at the class below them: restaurant franchisees, doctors, attorneys, insurance agents, right? All these guys who are never going to be at the level where they can have the naming rights to the new football building or have a gate at the Breslin Center named after them. But they can contribute money to help you land 5 stars. But the problem is, they're not just going to give you money. You need to give them access. And that's what Mel Tucker is lacking right now. He is not giving these guys access. They want their asses kissed, and he's not kissing their asses. You need something from them. They're not going to give it to you, especially coming off a 5-7 season. So I think he's correct in that Michigan State needs to up its NIL game. But Mel Tucker is also a huge catalyst in being able to make that happen. And sitting there and complaining to a beat writer is not the way to do it. You need to get out there. You need to shake hands, kiss babies, do these things that other coaches around the country do to make themselves successful.
Yeah, what do you think about it, Alec?
Yeah, and I'm not a Michigan State, guy like Spartan Dog is, so I don't have the same perspective. But I mean, I can look at it from a lens of what I've seen at Rutgers. And Rutgers, it's kind of murky whether or not their NIL is up to par with some of the other It's not top notch, obviously, but it seems like it's in a fairly good spot right now. But Greg Schiano has publicly said that a lot of his job does go to NIL, at least day to day. So that's just the reality of college football today. And, like you said, you got to be able to, bring that stuff in. like you said, it's legalized bag dropping at this point, which yeah, it is. So that's kind of just the landscape of college football. So yeah, I agree. He's right in a vacuum, but it feels like it at least a little bit of desperation, especially coming off the disappointing season that Michigan State had last year.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Honestly, I wrote in my notes here, if he would have just said this after last season, I don't think it would be nearly as big of a deal. I mean, after last season, you have Kenneth Walker, 2021, you have Kenneth Walker, you have all these receivers, Keon Coleman, Jaden Reed, and you look at those guys, and obviously Kenneth Walker left, but I mean, he was eligible in the height of his, draft stock. I don't think he had a year to come back either. So, but you say that after last or the 2021 season, where you say, hey, this success was awesome. You want it to keep happening? We need NIL, like to bring that up. Ryan Day kind of did that at Ohio State, and Jim Harbaugh has done it a little bit at Michigan too. I don't know if anybody else has really done it. Quite a few coaches or new coaches in the Big Ten. But the thing that I didn't like, and I don't know if this has even been brought up. Well, I know it's been brought up other places. We haven't brought it up here yet. Is him taking shots at other Big Ten programs and saying, look, these guys, I don't know if it's a shot, but kind of fighting with other Big Ten programs a little bit, saying these guys have 10, 12, $13 million a year going to their NIL. And it's almost like, in my opinion, Big Ten is the conference that's doing it right. It's the schools down south. It's the Oklahomas. It's the LSUs. It's the Alabamas. It's the Georgias. It's the Florida schools. Those kind of schools that are saying, hey, you come here, we'll give you a bag right now. And of course, it's legal in Missouri, so they can just give them a bag whenever they want. But it's those kind of schools that I really feel like he should be going after. I don't know. Am I interpreting that right, Spartan Dog? Did you feel like he was taking a shot at the Big Ten?
I don't think it was taking a shot necessarily, more than it was just like a call to action to those boosters I mentioned. But it came off super like bitchy and complainy to me, and that's how it's going to come off to them. And if you can't sound bitchy and complaining that you're not getting enough buy-in coming off of the season you just had. You just can't, right? You need to go out there. You need to grovel. You need to kiss ass. You need to send the assistants out there. You need to send Trey Mosley. You need to send Cal Holiday. You need to send these guys to $10,000 a plate dinners and have them talk, have them take pictures, have them sign shit, and build up this NIL war chest. I mean, that's what it's going to take. It's not going to take you complaining in the Lansing State Journal that Ohio State has $12 million to give out. Good for Ohio State. Michigan State doesn't have that because you're not hitting the pavement enough. Ryan Day is out there. He's kissing ass because he has to. You need to match that energy and kiss ass to get the program where you think it needs to be.
And he certainly paid like it too.
Right.
One of the top, I don't know off the top of my head, but surely one of the top 10 most best paid coaches in the country, not even in the Big Ten or anything, in the country. So, all right, we got to move on from this topic. We're getting a little long here, so we'll go ahead and we'll let Alec cover this one first for us. But the Big Ten injury report. So if you haven't followed this, there's not been a whole lot written about it, but Ross Stellinger did send out a tweet on Friday, I think it was. Yes, Friday around 7:00. So late in the day, toward the evening, he sends out a tweet basically saying, I'll just make it short for you, basically saying that the Big Ten will have to put out injury reports for their teams this year. They're hoping this will help lessen the gambling by players. Obviously, the Iowa situation has impacted this, and we've talked about that a lot on this show. And and there will be punishments if the team does not submit an injury report at least 2 hours before the game. Then the Big Ten will be punishing teams for those actions. Alec, what do you think about this situation? Does this change anything? Do you like this? Do you dislike this? What do you think about this situation?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that I'm starting off with this because at least among Rutgers fans, Greg Schiano is kind of notorious for being as secretive as humanly possible with anything and everything to do with the program. So I'm sure he's not going to be too happy about it. But I mean, I guess it's good to know these things, and I'm not sure about how much it'll help with with gambling stuff. I guess they're trying to see if it does help. Like you said, I mean, Iowa State's been going through a lot with, I mean, pretty much all of their athletic programs. But yeah, I mean, it helps us as like media members, and having access to some kind of injury reports will help with trying to analyze stuff and things like that. So I think it's overall a good idea. Now, obviously, a lot of the coaches are not going to be very happy with it for the reason that I said. They like to keep things really close to the vest and take away any kind of competitive advantage any opponent might possibly get. So I think it's a net positive, but I guess it remains to be seen what the intentions are and how it helps with those intentions.
Yeah, great point. What do you think, Spartan Dog?
I think this is just meant to appease Vegas. I think Shiano isn't alone in trying to be as secretive as possible. I mean, Mel Tucker doesn't even release depth charts. So I think this is just to like appease Vegas. And, no coach, I think, would divulge any kind of injury information if he wasn't forced to. So it's just it's just a way to like kind of stabilize gambling around college football, which like they're not gonna make it illegal. So anything to kind of help find a healthy center here, I think is ultimately a good thing.
Yeah, and I feel like with the whole Iowa situation, you almost had to do something like this for PR purposes. I mean, Noah Shannon being out, and I haven't followed the other two guys if they're out yet or not. So if you guys know that, you let me know. But for the most part, I feel like they had to do something as the Big Ten with a team that is doing this. And I found this today. Not a lot of people know it, but the Big 12 actually announced very quietly that they have a similar partnership with USI. USI is a group that the Big Ten is doing this with. So we might very well see this come out with the Big 12 sometime this week, sometime during the season, where they have to do the same thing. And it makes sense too, because they have the whole Iowa State situation. I mean, the starting quarterback for the Cyclones will not be on the team this season. Hunter Deckers is off the team after gambling on games. And I don't think a lot of people knew this either, but LSU has instituted this as well. They were actually the first Power 5 team to institute this earlier in August. So, we have teams doing it. We have conferences doing it. I mean, guys, you let me know, and we'll start with you, Spartan Dog. Is this kind of like conferences and teams basically asserting their governance over college football instead of the NCAA? I mean, there's been tons of complaints about the Jim Harbaugh stuff and everything. Is this kind of the conferences saying, look, NCAA, get out of the way. We're going to start taking care of this ourselves because we don't need you.
Right. I do think the NCAA basically, since they lost the NIL decision, has been basically unwilling or unable to enforce anything in terms of rules. It's just, and the conferences, I think, are starting to reckon with that reality and kind of trying to create their independent governance from the NCAA. Ultimately, the NCAA isn't going to be able to get a handle on anything moving forward until either Congress gives them the power to do so, or they like invent a time machine and go back and figure out a way to stop NIL from happening. But I just don't. Yeah, the NCAA is basically useless now. The only thing they're good for is booking the venues for March Madness.
Go back in time and go try and pay those politicians some money so they don't pass the laws.
Yeah,
Alec,
exactly.
what do you think? Is this the conferences asserting their governance over college football instead of the NCAA now?
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of it. And honestly, if I were the NCAA, I would, try to, and then I had that time machine, I would try to go back even further and go back all the way to Penn State when, it was being floated around that they would give them the death penalty. And I think that was really the first, NIL definitely made that jump, but it was the first instance of like the NCAA can't really do anything when it comes to anything. So yeah, I definitely think that the conferences are, I don't know if that was their intent behind this, was to show the NCAA, yeah, we're more powerful than you, do something about it, you can't. But I do think that that's a kind of side effect of it at the very least.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy time seeing the way things are changing. And it's changing a lot more than NIL. It's changing a lot more than conference realignment in ways that we don't always even see. So, all right, guys. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate you being here. We are going to be live. We're not live. We are going to record in a couple of days again. We'll have a show put out Wednesday morning. I have awesome guests for that. So if you guys know them, Chris Drew from the Menace to Sports. It's kind of an Ohio State kind of Big Ten podcast. He is awesome. He's going to be a great interview. And I'm going to have Big Kurt from the Eye on Big Ten Football podcast. If you know that one, he is an Illinois fan. And I'm sure that we'll have a great time with Chris and Kurt talking through all those things. Alec, you want to plug your podcast one more time?
Yeah, sure. So you can find it on all social media at What's Choppin' Pod. That's Instagram and Twitter. Those are the main two at the very least. And then on all podcasting platforms, again, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart, and YouTube. It's the just search up the What's Choppin' Podcast, and that's where you can find us. And once the season gets underway, which it's about to, definitely going to be a lot more consistent with the schedule. Probably, beginning of the week recap, end of the week preview, things like that. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
Excellent. Spartan Dog, you want to let us know about Bacon Wire one more time?
Yeah, sure. Bacon Wire and MSU Sports Podcast, available wherever podcasts are listened to. You can find us on Twitter at Bacon Wire. We upload every Monday. We just had our season preview go live today, so go check it out, see what we think. And yeah, thanks for having me, JR. I appreciate it.
For sure. You guys are welcome on anytime. Just let me know next time you want to come on. We'll love to have you again. So, hey, everyone, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.